Hello, everyone. Joe Newell, Riversports.com. We are just 48 hours as we record this away from championship Friday night, meaning the regional championship for 4D in particular, we're going to talk about just now. Also want to encourage you, if you haven't already checked out our preview for the 2C championship involving Gretna and Glenver. That's up in Salem on Friday night. Please go over to the website at danriversports.com and check that out. See what those young men and Coach Miller have to say as they prep and get ready for a rematch in 2C. This was the two teams that played in the regional championship a year ago when Glenver won and advanced to the semis. In 4D, GW is hosting Jefferson Forest at home in JT Christopher Stadium on Friday night, on a chilly Friday night. It's going to be cold, but it's going to be playoff football, so who really cares, right, at the end of the day? These two teams don't have a ton of history together, Jefferson Forest and GW. They've played 4 total games prior to this. They split them 2-2. The last time was 2 years ago in the playoffs when Jefferson Forest defeated GW at home 20-13. The Cavaliers come in at 10-2. Their 2 losses, though, folks, are against regional finalists in 3C, Heritage and LCA. They took Heritage into overtime, and they lost 22-19 to Liberty Christian. So they could have just as easily been wins there. Really well-coached, hard-nosed football team are the Cavaliers, and they'll come in to JT Christopher on Friday night ready to take on the Eagles. They come in averaging just a little over 32 points a game. And their defense has been really stingy. Again, they've played top-notch competition. They're averaging allowing just a hair under 9 points per game, 8.9. GW comes in averaging about 37 points per game and allowing 17.5. The last 3 games so far for GW, meaning the Piedmont District Championship against Magna Vista, as well as the first 2 rounds of the playoffs, GW's averaging 45 points per game. So they've picked it up a notch in the last few weeks. Jefferson Forest, a little bit like GW, they are run first, but they're very efficient in the passing game as well. In fact, they've thrown only for 833 passing yards through the regular season, but that included 15 touchdowns. In addition to that, though, they've run 384 times for 2,675 yards and 34 more scores. Because you can kind of see the imbalance in terms of frequency, but man, what they do, they are very efficient and sharp at. You're going to see a lot of motion out of their offense. They motion someone almost every single play. You'll see varied sets. You're going to see counter action once the ball is snapped. All that translates to the GW defenders have to be super disciplined with their eyes, reading their keys, gap fitting, and being in the proper position. Because if they get caught watching in the backfield, it gets confusing, it gets misleading, and you could quickly find yourself out of position. One of these things that the Cavaliers have caught people on, if you've seen them on film or in person, they orbit motion a wing or a flanker or whatever you want to call that position a lot. And a lot of times you'll see them kind of stutter step behind the quarterback and then come downhill on the run on a straight ahead power play or lead play. However, they'll run that play and it'll look the same 6, 7, 8 times in a row, and then the quarterback will pull it out of the belly and he'll make a throw out of it. Again, 15 passing touchdowns. They have ways of being efficient with that. And even when the orbit motion man continues wide, a lot of times he's the check down receiver. They get it out to him in space and see if he can make plays. So they have a way of counteracting what you do against the run. Of course, run stoppage is something GW has been very strong in this season. In fact, if you look at what GW has done on the ground, because this translates to line play, right? GW has run 515 times for 3,210 yards on the ground thus far. Their opponents have run for 1,193. That's over a 2,000-yard difference between what opponents are getting on the ground against GW and what GW is getting on the ground. And that really plays and travels well anytime, but especially in the playoffs. If you can eat clock, finish drives, keep the opposing team off the field, that really helps you. Jefferson Forest, though, man, they're not here by chance. They're quick, they're physical, they're disciplined. They have high energy, high motors. If you watch them on film, they fly around, they tackle well in open space. Just a really well-coached team that will play you and fight you tooth and nail for every inch of the field. There is one injury update that appears to be accurate for Jefferson Forest. Thax Rowland, who plays outside linebacker for them and also running back, left the Hanley game a week ago and didn't return. It appears that he will not suit up on Friday. That per someone, a couple people in Lynchburg, but also a podcast, District 2. If you don't know District 2, check Greg and his team out there. Dax apparently chimed in last night on that in the comment section that he would not suit up. But man, if you look at the rest of that Hanley game without Dax, it's just next man up mentality with the Cavaliers, right? And they played exceptionally well. Obviously came away with the win, scoring with a minute 54 left in that game to take the lead 14-10, and then holding off the last drive by the judges for the win. So what are the keys? I mean, what does this boil down to for GW if they're going to get the win and advance to the Final Four? They're going to have to play really disciplined football, as we mentioned. There can't be any freelancing, hero ball, any of that kind of stuff. Everybody's got to play their role and their responsibility consistently and from start to finish. Otherwise, they will crease you. They will take advantage of what you do, especially on defense. So know your assignments, play your assignments, and just trust that your teammates are going to do the same. The second one, I mean, seems painfully obvious to most of you, but I think they have to be the more physical team for the duration of the game. Now, that's been true week in and week out. It seems like as the game wears on, that depth and size that GW has on both sides of the ball wears teams down a bit in the second half, but that's going to have to hold true. Again, I think Jefferson Forest, man, they're well conditioned. They can play those 4 quarters, but GW will have to impose its will, I think, to get out with a W on Friday night. And then there's one kind of a sticking point here, these next two anyway. First one is dead ball penalties. Now, GW's had some times with post-play penalties that have unsportsmanlike, that kind of thing. But the ones that keeps cropping up, and they had 6 of them last week against Sherando, are false starts. I don't know if they're just trying to the pullers are trying to get moving, it appears, just a hair tick too early before the snap so they can get into position. But they had 6 of those a week ago against Sherando. One of them really hurt a drive. They were up in the 3rd or 4th quarter there against Sherando, got the ball down 1st and goal at the 9, had back-to-back false start penalties along with a holding call that ended up resulting in a 41-yard Cam Stevens field goal. But that's something I think they got to really clean up, is false start penalties, to make sure they don't get behind the chains. Again, this is a really good defensive team that the Cavaliers have. You don't want to play behind the chains if you're only getting 3, 4, 5 yards at a pop. And then finally, minimize big plays. I think all of you who have been following the Eagles know that it's like I mentioned a moment ago, they're pretty stingy against the run and the pass overall. They've been really good defensively, except for giving up big plays. Case in point, last week against Sherando. Sherando scored all 21 points in the first half, but they had 3 big plays that accounted for 48% of their total yardage for the entire game, which were 2 quarterback runs. One went for a touchdown, one set up a touchdown, and then a pass play on a busted coverage to the tight end that set up another short touchdown for the Warriors. That was 148 of their 311 yards against GW a week ago. Again, about 48% of their total. If GW can correct that like they did in the second half against Sherando when they only allowed 86 yards from scrimmage, I think they're going to be in really good shape. Folks, this is big-time football. Both these teams really want this regional championship. Both teams want to advance to the Final Four. They're going to reseed Class 4 after this game. So if GW were to win, then it looks like they're probably going to be seeded number 2, which would mean a home game in the semis. They haven't won this regional championship game, as I mentioned, since 1996. So this is a big night. I don't want to put any extra pressure on the kids or the program, but it's a great opportunity for them. And they really need you in the stands, folks. I can't emphasize this enough. Your voice, your presence, your energy in the stands means a ton in these type of games, and those kids really feed off of it. So bring your hot chocolate, bring your blankets, your hand warmers, whatever you need to bring to be out in that stadium at JT Christopher on Friday night to root them on. And if for some reason you can't make it, we understand. We'll be there in full force on Friday night. But if you can't make it, we're happy to partner with Chuck Vipperman at CVIP Solutions on their live stream of the game. So go to Facebook, look up GW Eagles football, and you can watch every play of this contest from the comfort of your own home. Hey, if anybody hadn't told you already, happy Thanksgiving, everyone. We'll see you out there.